Hey y'all, we're back. We're gonna get into this, but in the meantime, we're gonna try something new. I made a little intro, so why don't you all watch that while I get Instagram set up? How about that? Okay.
Department. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
Creative, huh? Yeah, I'm gonna work on that. Whatever. I just thought it was cool because I always come in and then I'm like, I gotta go set up Instagram, and it just doesn't seem as smooth. We're trying to elevate here. So welcome everyone to Political Theater with Dr. T. I am Dr. T. The T is short for Dr. Taylor. You know, somehow we're still here. Somehow we are still here. Let me see you in the comments. Let me know. You love the intro? Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to act like I'm serious about this. Y'all know the young people always got the cool stuff. I'm an old head. I just pop on and start talking. I don't even care. We are here somehow. And for those of you that have been rocking with me since day one, you understand that we've been talking about this since early election season. We are just talking about all of the political things that are going on, my take on things. This started out with me really like analyzing people's body language, their speeches, and the nonsense and stuff. And it really evolved into us creating this political community of people that are actually progressive. So if this is your first time here, please understand that we are not about that BS life. I just want that to be very clear. We are not on no liberal BS. We are not on no centrist BS. We are not kissing asses of Democrats over here. We are talking the real, and we will critique all sides. We will find positive in whatever sides we can, if that happens, right? We're going to keep it real here. So if this is your first time at Political Theater, Dr. T, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's tuck in. So today we've got a lot to talk about because it has been a while. And one of the things I know that I'm working on is I'm going to try to be consistent with this on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I need y'all to hold me to that. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that like I don't go out with any friends or any dates or make any plans. I want to be here for you because we will survive this together. Right. I see some old heads in the chat. What up? I'm happy that you're here. I'm glowing. It's because I got Vaseline on, girl. That's what. Let me just do real quick. Let the folks on Instagram know that they can join us on YouTube because the chat I can't pull in the Instagram comments. I can pull in Facebook. I can pull in YouTube, but I can't pull in Instagram. So I just like to remind people that they can come over here. Make sure you go to the live tab. And then you will see us there. All right, so let's get into it. I got a whole docket. You know how we do. Also, I talked with Dr. H. He will occasionally be able to pop in. I know you guys tolerate him for me. It's okay, but I know you're really here to see me. Okay, here we go. Chris said, that ain't Vaseline, that's genius. I don't know, man. I don't know, because I don't know my up from my down. So as you can see, from the title of this, I said that Donald Trump is trying to be Pol Pot. And somebody had said this on Threads, and it really made me think about it. I was like, why didn't I make that connection myself, right? So I'm sorry, I don't remember who had said it to me, but I am giving you credit because you did make me think about it, and I started really looking into it, right? So if you don't know who Pol Pot is, and I'm just going to pronounce it that way, Pol Pot was a Cambodian dictator, right? People will say that he was also a revolutionary. And I mean, if we're defining revolution as completely change everything and destroy millions of lives, then maybe. But, there was a communist state basically, and he ran that for like about 4 or 5 years. And he killed like 3 million people or something like that, like millions of people. It was definitely a genocide. It was definitely ethnic cleansing. It was definitely on some like bullshit. But I think the reason why I think about Pol Pot is because the way he went about doing things and forcing adherence to what he was, trying to do, it is very similar. We can definitely see the similarities between him and Donald Trump, right? Renaming things for yourself, really stupid things like, attacking the arts and culture and things like that. Deciding that there are some people that are real people versus people who are not, right? People who are expendable. And sure, we can point to a number of dictators, but I think the ridiculousness of Pol Pot is what comes to my mind. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but if you want to go and research and kind of look at some of the just asinine, ridiculous, petty things that he did during his reign, and you'll see the alignment there. Okay. No, it actually is one of the worst dictator names ever. Like Pol Pot. Like, why would you call yourself that? It sounds like porta potty. It sounds like you're naming yourself after the shitter. Okay. So what is even happening with that? All right. So you saw in the intro that Donald Trump has taken over Washington, D.C. Yes, I am eating fried chicken because I am a Negro. I like fried chicken. So Donald Trump has basically stated that he needs to take over DC because DC is lawless, the crime is through the roof, and all these things. Now we all know because we all read that is not the case. That is not true. The crime is down in DC. Crime is down in a number of major cities, particularly blue cities. But he seems to be targeting cities that have Black mayors or Black adjacent mayors. And I say that, throwing Chicago in there, because if you ever watch, and kind of governors too, I'm thinking also. So the governor, what is it, Pitzer or something? That ain't a quadroon or octoroon, Adam. I'm not even. But anyway, kind of going after cities that have, these Black mayors, which is really interesting because Philadelphia, a place that does have a lot of crime and does have a whole lot of shit going on and does have a Black mayor, doesn't seem to mention it as much. The only thing he's talking about with Philadelphia is removing, kind of the things in Old City that talk about slavery, right? Because, next year is the 250th anniversary. Philly is supposed to be gearing up for celebrating, but Philly ain't got no money, and the feds ain't giving Philly no money, so they're not really sure what they're gonna do. But in the event that people do come to Philadelphia, he wants to erase all mentions of slavery, right? I'm just letting you all know, if that happens, I will personally be organizing a demonstration to make sure that everyone that comes to this city understands that Front and Market was one of the worst trading and human trafficking ports in the country. Okay. And I will remind people that New Jersey was the last to end slavery, not based on technicalities, just because they didn't want to lose the money. But anyway, all right. So he goes into DC. We have seen a lot of clips. I don't want to show them because I really am not a big fan of showing violence against Black people. But there's a lot of stop and frisk, right? Which we know is a tactic. You will never convince me that police officers that engage in stop and frisk aren't doing so to be sexually harassing. Like, I feel like those police officers actually like groping young Black and Latino men. They get off on it. It does something for them. I'm sorry I put that in your head, but now it is. And you'll never unsee it, right? So they're stopping and frisking people. They're coming in, asking people for ID. I just saw a clip of somebody going up to a dude that was smoking on his the front of his building. Now, mind you, you can smoke herb in DC, like New York, DC, Jersey, Cali, number of places you can smoke your herb. He said it was a quality of life violation. So now, in a city where you are allowed to smoke your herb, you're allowed to possess it, you're allowed to buy it, you're allowed to do all those things, they're now saying that it is a quality of life violation. So that, again, going back to Pol Pot, that should tell you that he is trying to create this environment for himself. He really is actually trying to, well, one, they want to get the homeless people off the street. So they're rounding people up and they're giving them options, right? One is to go to a psychiatric facility, right? I'm sorry, I hate it. If you don't know, involuntary internment at a psychiatric facilities is no better than incarceration in a prison. And that's assuming that people have mental health issues. Yes, in New York City, when I worked there, 1 in 2 people living on the streets likely had a mental health, issue. That's not the case for everyone. The other one is to go into a drug treatment program. Okay, again, assuming criminality, assuming bad behaviors, assuming all of these negative things about people who are homeless, right? And so you have those options, or you face a fine or incarceration. So they're not allowing for mothers with children, fathers with children, couples who may have just been evicted because the rents in DC are astronomical. They're not allowing for those things to be true. You don't have many options. So what does that say? What does that tell us? That tells us that they are trying to zhuzh up a workforce, right? Anytime you see elected officials starting to focus on rounding up homeless people, they need an exploitable labor force, right? When they were doing that in California and Cal Fire was short on firefighters, and your favorite vice president was denying people release because they needed people to. Okay, anyway, we don't have to get into that, right? Because Gavin Newsom is also doing it, and they're doing it in Portland, and they're doing it in Atlanta, and Muriel Bowser was already doing this. Okay, already doing this in DC. And I just want to make that very clear. Again, we are actually progressive over here. We do not make excuses for people, whether or not they're Black women. I don't give a shit. You function as an agent of the state, you're going to get this smoke. Muriel Bowser has already been rounding up homeless people, has already stretched the DC budget to put thousands of more police officers on the street. She was already doing these things. Part of why crime is low is because of these Gestapo type tactics, right? So, listen, am I talking too fast? Are y'all catching what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Okay, I just want to make sure. And Philly as well. Yes, of course, Philly is doing it as well, because Sherrell Parker is a Republican. She's a Black Republican. Eric Adams in New York, a Black Republican. All these people, Muriel Bowser, Keisha Bottoms, Lori Lightfoot out in Chicago when she was out there. All of these Black politicians who are actually Black Republicans cosplaying as Democrat to get people to vote for them. They all have done the same things, right? And that goes back if we go back to this 1994 or whatever crime bill everybody wants to talk about with Joe Biden and Clinton and all of that stuff. I have to remind you all that your aunties supported this shit. Your grandmother supported this shit. All your beloved family, they supported this. This was a very popular thing at the time. They were at the town hall meetings. They were at the precinct meetings. They were calling for more policing. They were calling for these things. So when we could look back and talk about Hillary and the super predators and all that shit, your grandmother was calling these niggas super predators. Okay, so let's just be honest about this, right? So Trump is coming in. He's coming into DC and he's pretending that the crime is just so bad that he has to come in, he has to bring in the National Guard, which he's allowed to do for up to 30 days without, congressional approval. So you got to pay attention. The game is to see how many people he can arrest and round up within that time so they can kind of build up a workforce over there. For what my idea is, if I put my tinfoil hat on, and you guys know that I do that often, so rock with me, is he's not planning on leaving DC. He's talking about building this whole big ballroom extension at the White House because they can host people. He wants to pave over the Rose Garden, all these things, right? He wants y'all to get the fuck out of his city. Let's just be honest. And he hates DC because he's a germaphobe, right? So that's the other thing. He hates DC. But what he wants to do is turn it into his own version of Mar-a-Lago as dictator of the United States. He told us he was going to be dictator from day one, and he kept that promise. So this is what he's doing. And he's trying to make sure that he can clean up these streets and push everybody out. And then if he can put them in prison, if he's able to put them in prison, then we can get the cheap prison labor that his constituents, his funders, his puppeteers who are heavily invested in private prisons, Jay-Z, can get their money and do what they got to do, right? So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that what's happening in DC has nothing to do with crime. It has nothing to do with homelessness, has nothing to do with anything other than Donald Pol Pot Trump's ego and him wanting to create a city that is his own. Okay. And that's what it is. And he's going to use taxpayer dollars to do that. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance, the reason you haven't heard much from him lately is because 7 of the last 8 months he's been vacationing with his wife. Okay. J.D. Vance has been to Paris. He's been out to Montana on the range. He has been, he had the waters lifted so that he could go kayaking with his family. That is what J.D. Vance is doing. He does not give a shit. He's biding his time. Remember, we talked about this months ago. J.D. Vance absolutely hates Donald Trump, and he's just waiting for his opportunity to become president. J.D. Vance was installed by Peter Thiel, that technocracy, like the bros up there, Elon, Zuck, Peter, and what's that other guy? Jarl, whatever the fuck his name is. All of them, they've been planning this. Guys keep talking about Project 2025, and I'm trying to remind you all that Project 2025 is like this. It's like this compared to the power that the techno bros have, right? This is Project 2025. This is Peter Thiel, right? Elon Musk was supposed to be, the bridge or whatever, but the got in the way of all of that, and he kind of messed things up. So that's what's going on. I just want to make sure you all understand that part as well. So they're going to 25 him. I told you all a long time ago, they're going to 25 him, or they're going right into the neck. They're going to get him. He's gone, right? And so JD Vance is vacationing with his wife. Not convinced he hasn't been putting something in her drink every day, because I don't get that. But it is what it is. Daphne says she's listening and making dinner, but I ain't said nothing but the truth. That's right. What you making for dinner, Daphne? I would love to know. You don't have a plate for everybody in here, but you want to talk about making dinner. I don't understand. How we doing that? All right. What's up, family? You live in Maryland. Daphne said, I live in Maryland. In my office in DC, Muriel has been on BS with housing and police. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody I know and love that lives in DC has talked about the problems with Muriel Bowser. She is a sellout. Sherelle Parker is a sellout. Eric Adams is a sellout. Keisha Lance Bottoms is a sellout. Cory Booker is a sellout. All of these people, they're all sellouts, right? You know who's not a sellout? Check out Baltimore and see what they're doing over there, right? All right, so that's kind of, when I was thinking about Pol Pot, that's what I was coming with, right? So as we're talking about this political stuff, let's talk about the gerrymandering, right? So this gerrymandering issue has been coming up a lot lately. And I'm actually going to take a sip of wine here, because why not? I like this connection. I do think that Thiel and Musk are closer than a lot of people think. I think, again, they're kind of like, they're up here. They're up here looking down on all of us. They hate us, right? They're kind of like that God y'all love, who actually hates all of you and thinks you're all of the stupidest people in the world. So it's very simple. They think that human beings are stupid, and for the most part, they actually aren't. Wrong. Y'all are actually really not very smart, but you get smart here, right? You get smart here. All right, so gerrymandering. For those who don't know, you have heard this this term, and let's see. I got my my definition here. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. Oh shit! I fucked up. Oh my god. I'm sorry, y'all. Instagram got cut off. Hopefully, folks will make it over here. Oopsie. All right, so gerrymandering. What is gerrymandering? Gerrymandering is to manipulate the boundaries of an electoral constituency so as to favor one party or class, okay? Or to try to achieve a result by manipulating the boundaries of an electoral constituency. I don't think I can. I'm not even going to try to get Instagram back on. And listen, I tell y'all to come over here. You make your way over here. But it's interesting, the history of gerrymandering, right? So it comes from the governor of Massachusetts, former governor of Massachusetts. His name was Elbridge Gerry. And it's a combination, it's a portmanteau of Gerry and salamander, from the supposed similarity between a salamander and the shape of a new voting district on a map that was drawn when he was in office, which was 1812. And he created that because he felt it would be a favor to his party. Okay, so that's where the term gerrymandering comes from. I was reading this at in the New York Times, and then they also had that on dictionary Merriam-Webster's dictionary. So you can look into that. That's an interesting tidbit, me, ever the educator. So gerrymandering has been coming up. Why? Because the Texas Democrats are on the run. Are they still on the run? Somebody let me know if they still on a runaway train from their responsibilities. So if you haven't been aware, Donald Trump has basically called on Texas to redistrict, I think it's like 5 of those districts, so that they can get 5 more seats in the House, so that way they can get more cushion, because it's a little bit tight. They also know that if there's an election in 2026, they're going to mop the floor with them. Oh my gosh. We're going to have some elections coming up in a couple of months, like local things, whatever. I think that we're going to start to see, Blue MAGA's wave is going to come through, right? But I think that they know if they actually make it to 2026, and not because people, the liberals, actually like trans people, Black people, immigrants. They don't like any of us, but they hate him. So they're going to vote. Them Texans who hate Trump are going to come out and vote, and they're going to swing things the other way. And that's going to happen across the country, correct? So it's really important to note that gerrymandering has been a thing. It's from 1812. It's over 200 years of people doing this, right? And gerrymandering almost always has a disparate impact on Black people, poor people, Latinos, etc., right? That's just the truth of it. So they're moving, the Democrats in Texas, they fled the state because they're not in the state, therefore they can't come vote, and they could not have quorum in their meetings to be able to vote on this. So, the governor and attorney general and all they issued warrants for their arrest. Now, these warrants don't actually matter outside of the state of Texas, but they're talking about arresting them for leaving the state, very much how they want to arrest women for leaving, or people who are pregnant for leaving the state to have an abortion. This is an incarceration nation. Everything, you blink 4 times in a row and somebody's going to call the police and want to incarcerate you for doing that. So that's what's happening. And so, I was watching, I forgot who the sister was. Oh, by the way, like the way they talk about the Democrats, Abbott has been calling them runaways, right? And there's a lot of Black representatives who are Democrats in Texas, referring to them as runaways, bringing in that Fugitive Slave Act language, right? Clocked. We all know what that is. It's complete nonsense, right? So they've been doing that. And one of the sisters was talking about, you think I really want to be away from my grandchild and my family? I don't. But, making this sacrifice for the greater good. You said I'd have a great conversation with Rep. Jolanda Jones of Houston. Well, if you know her, tell her to come on and join the conversation. I more than welcome these folks to come on. If you know people that should come on here and they got a platform, they want to talk about some things, come on, join us over here. It's all good. They call them runaways, right? Like they're drapetomaniacs, right? Anyway, but here's the interesting thing. So the Democrats, in all of their nonsensical glory, they say they want to do the same thing. Now, come on, friends. Come on. We don't do that. You know why we don't do that? Because it's wrong across the board, right? So yes, the Texas Democrats have actually been facing death threats, bomb threats, all kinds of things, because racist white people are absolutely out of their minds. We know this. We understand this to be a truth. But the Democrats are saying, oh, we'll do the same thing. Gavin Newsom talking about, well, we can do it in California. Talk about it in New York, Illinois. Are you dumb? Right. What's wrong with it? 2 wrongs don't make a right. And that is the problem with the Democratic Party, right? When they're supposed to be sneaky and tactical and strategic like that, when they're supposed to abandon their morals, they never do. When they're supposed to fight dirty, when they're supposed to fight fire with fire, they don't do it. But when it comes to things that are actually pretty fucked up and you don't want to set a precedent for it, Democrats will be like, we got it. We'll do it. We'll do it. And what are you talking about? Like, come on, this is crazy. Like, what are we doing here? No, you don't want to redistrict things. What we want, because you all keep talking about a democracy, and as I've reminded you all many times, there is no such thing as democracy in the United States. There never has been any democracy in the United States, but they keep playing like there is. So if you want a true democracy, you start by getting rid of the Electoral College, which is racist and designed to deny people to have their votes counted, right? You get rid of the Electoral College. You redesign how the Senate and the House of Representatives represent people. I was just reading something the other day that said back when they determined and set that it was going to be, I think it's 435 representatives. At the time, it was one representative for like 65,000 people. Now it's like one representative for like 250,000 people. So that something like that. But we need to change that. We need more representatives so that we can have a better ratio in terms of representation. But also, Montana does not need to have the same number of senators as California and New York. Alaska does not need to have the same number of senators as Florida or Texas. It just does not make sense, right? If we're talking population, why should 20 million people be represented by 2 people and 800,000 also be represented by 2 people? Again, doesn't make any sense. I'm a logical person. You all know I'm all about things that make sense. So we need to be thinking about that as well. The other way is to stop voter disenfranchisement. So what we are now starting to see, I want to tie this into the DC thing. This is where I get to be smart. So if you weren't aware, felony disenfranchisement was enacted during the Reconstruction as a way to prevent Black men from being able to vote, right? So after the emancipation, they were given the right to vote. And they started electing their own people to represent them, right? And the racist ass crackers did not like that. So they implemented vagrancy laws. And so basically, if you were hanging outside, say like 3 of you got together, and you're standing on a corner and you're talking about things, could be after church, could be whatever, you have an extended conversation, you could actually be arrested for idling and for vagrancy, and that would be a felony. Would not be a citation or misdemeanor or anything like that. It would be a felony. And that felony would render you unable to vote for the rest of your life, right? So this was developed specifically to keep Black men from voting, okay? So we're talking about the Reconstruction. We're talking 1865 to about 1877, right? Also very interesting, all of you are watching this Black Gilded Age thing as if the Gilded Age did not, represent the end of the Reconstruction, which was the last time that we had an opportunity to be free and equal, and you all are watching this show. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. Y'all got it. Y'all love to see bougie Black people doing bougie Black things that were not realistic. But okay. But anyway, felony vagrancy laws started to disenfranchise Black men. That's why stop and frisk exists. That's why you always see Black men being pulled over, Black and Latino men definitely being pulled over as they're driving, stopped on the street, all those things. It dates back 160 odd years to make sure that they can't vote. And so that's why they plant things on them, because they pull them aside. It's just a misdemeanor. It's just a citation, but that's why they plant things on them, force them into resisting arrest, forcing them into assault, all these things to make sure that they can charge them with felonies. Okay. And so when they charge them with the felonies and they convict them of the felonies, they have taken their right to vote. So what Trump is trying to do by going into these cities with large Black populations, largely blue, they want to go in and they want to round them up and they want to enact these vagrancy laws. And the same thing with being homeless, right? If you're homeless, you're out idling and you're vagrant, so we can arrest you and charge you with a felony and make sure that you can never vote, right? That's how it all goes. So I just need you all to see that in the way that that's supposed to be. So they got these bomb threats, and that was awful. South Carolina, let's see, Ralph Norman in South Carolina is also saying that they need to gerrymander. Well, they want to redistrict, and part of that is because he wants Jimmy Clyburn out. I always say that nigga's name wrong. Clyburn. Jimmy Clyburn. Now, you all know, if you've been here for a while, you know I ain't got no love for Jimmy Clyburn. I think he's one of the most manipulative sons of a bee in the damn Congress, but he is super powerful, and he controls the black vote in South Carolina. This is why the Democrats cheat and stole and made it so that South Carolina would be the first state to be able to dictate how the election is going to go, because they knew that all the black women in South Carolina, who they are doing absolutely nothing for, and they are allowing to suffer in impoverished conditions and in some of the worst educational outcomes, maternal health outcomes, all those kinds of things. But they can rely on those loyal sisters to come through to vote to shape the election. So the Democrats manipulated and stole that. You all need to just accept that for what it is. And Jimmy has the power to hold black people's votes in South Carolina hostage. And he did that already, y'all. We saw that with Harris being the vice presidential nominee. People didn't actually want her because she lost the first time and she had a sketchy background, right? Aside from the things that people were making up, she actually has a sketchy background. People didn't really want her, but he was like, we need a black woman. And the reason we need a black woman is because I'm losing my hold on the black women here. And you gotta give me something, you old cracker. And so he held the black vote hostage until Biden guaranteed that Harris would do that. He also did that with Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is currently on there. And I'm not saying the sister is not qualified, but Ketanji Brown Jackson is on the SCOTUS because Jimmy Clyburn said, I will hold this vote hostage unless you promise to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. So this is a powerful man, right? So I understand why this dude Ralph is like, yeah, no, get him out. Ralph Norman said, nah, he gotta go because he has entirely too much power for a black man, right? So it's interesting that they want to do that. And if they do that, though, South Carolina probably won't have any districts that have a black representation. And we know South Carolina is old school racist, like old, deep. I mean, we talk about Texas, we talk about Florida, but South Carolina is a sleeper of deep, deep, deep racism. So that's kind of what that's about. So they're trying to do that there. Missouri is also trying to do this. They said that, let me see. The Missouri governor is also trying to push this gerrymandering thing from Trump. And so here's the other thing, is that Trump basically made this as a national request for folks. And all these people that drink his semen every day are picking it up and saying, we'll do it, daddy. Daddy, I got you. I'm gonna redistrict things for you, daddy. I'm gonna hand over, some seats to you, daddy. It doesn't matter what I got to do. Please show me favor, daddy. Please make sure that when we get hit with tornadoes and hurricanes and floods, that you give us money, daddy. What else can we do to make sure that you take care of us, daddy? These humiliation rituals that these people are going through, it's actually quite freaking disgusting. But anyway, Mike Kehoe is trying to pull people together. He had this private meeting. I think it happened on August 1st, held in Jefferson City, started discussing this redistricting idea. So you might want to look into your local politics and see what they're trying to do. What is your governor doing, right? Is your governor trying to disenfranchise people from being able to vote for the people that they want to vote for and elect them? Okay, so this is a pretty big thing. Elizabeth, you absolutely are correct. Elizabeth says the ironic part is that Trump will ignore states when it suits him, no matter what they do. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Ebony says, my Mexican and Filipino cousin moved to South Carolina and after a few years went MAGA. Oh, no. South Carolina is a vortex. You move down there, you will change. If for no other reason than survival, right? Now I only go to South Carolina to go to Myrtle Beach. I go in and I come out. My people are from there. I don't need to go. I've spent enough time in South Carolina as a young person. So I get it. All right. So so the Democrats, you've got Pritzker, you've got Mike Lawler, and they're talking about this gerrymandering ban. Some people want to ban it altogether. Democrats ain't gonna go for that because the Democrats always want to be able to leverage things that the conservatives are using. So they don't ever really want to completely ban things. That's why we still have the Electoral College. This is why we still have the filibuster, because they want to be able to send people like Cory Booker up there to talk for 25 hours about absolutely nothing, to accomplish absolutely nothing, only for him to come back and do absolutely nothing, actually do the opposite of what he's supposed to be doing, because he's a goddamn sellout and I hate him. So anyway, and if you're watching this, Cory, I'm going to say it directly to your face. You're a sellout and I hate you. Hope you step on Legos every morning you wake up. I hope that when you walk past your bed, I hope that you have a metal bed rail that you bang your shin on at least once a day. That's what you deserve because you're a goddamn sellout. So anyway, so speaking of South Carolina, well, they've got a pretty big scandal over there because, you know, the GOP is the grand old party of pedophiles. And that's kind of what they do. You also say Newark wrong, Booker. Yeah, he does. He does. How do you not say Newark? Like, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? I don't know. I think they built him in a lab. Anyway, if we're sticking in South Carolina. So RJ May, state representative, one of the most conservative people walking around. Moms for Liberty awarded him as like this leadership, greatest leader we ever had kind of thing. So a few months ago, he was charged with possessing and distributing child sex assault material, right? Some people are reporting it as if this just happened. It didn't. It happened months ago. And I remember when it happened months ago because I was very interested to see where they're going to go with this, right? Like, what are they planning on doing with this? Thanks, babe. I thank you for the vote of confidence. But he was charged months ago, right? So I think it was June he was charged. So he was arrested and he's just now resigning, right? So they let him stay. And this is what was really interesting to me is because he was duly elected, they said. So at first he was like still there, then they suspended him without pay, but he still holds the position, right? And so and I think that's to hold the power of the position, right? Because we're just talking about the gerrymandering. But the Republicans themselves were just like, you a fucking pervert, you disgusting bastard. Like, what the hell? You know, so they were like, nah, man, you got and so I think that, you know, behind the scenes kind of forced him out and he finally resigns. But then they also got him talking about on the prison line, talking about what he said, you know, basically kind of brushing it off. He's like, well, you know, if they get me on pornography, it ain't that really big of a deal. Like, this is not pornography, though. This is child sexual abuse material, y'all. And I don't want to get into the details. Let's just say it involved really young children. And he was sharing it on a KIK, whatever channel. And so what we have been learning, which some of us have always known that because we were born understanding how depraved these white men are. We have been learning that not only do these people seek public office, right? Elected officials who actually have an influence on local legislation, federal legislation, and things like that, because they want to shape the laws for themselves, right? They also seek power in churches, right? And so, like, pretty much every day we read about some pastor or church leader, youth pastor, something like that, who has, you know, been arrested for assaulting a child and all these kinds of things, or distributing, you know, this material, or engaging in human trafficking and all of these things. And so I think what's happening, especially with the Epstein files, which we're going to get to, you know, I have to talk about. It's been a while. It's been a while, folks. I got a lot to catch up. We ain't gonna be doing this much every time, but I gotta catch up. But I think what's happening with the Epstein file thing is that it's cracking. It's putting a crack in the vortex. The veil is being lifted, right? And more people are starting to realize how many monsters are among us, how many absolutely horrifying monsters are among us. And I think when that Telegram group that had over 70,000 men in it was exposed, I think people were like, wait a minute, 70,000 men? And that's just one group. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Then that French dude that had all those men come and assault his wife while she was asleep because he had drugged her. Yeah, starting to realize that's one guy. And there was another one too. I think it was another one in France that was very similar to that, or somewhere out in Europe, right? Because again, European, they got the nerve to stink. Got the nerve to not fucking use deodorant and be a nasty son of a bitch. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm never getting monetized, y'all. I cuss entirely too much. But anyway, so we're starting to see that this actually is a party of pedophiles. This is a party of people who need power, right? Because all of this is about exerting power. Sexual assault is always about asserting power, right? And so, because I think we're seeing, I hate to say this, but you just got to rock with me on this. The more liberated women get, the more children are at risk. The more liberated women become, the more children are at risk. Because they used to be able to control and dominate women when women were not allowed access to education, when they were not allowed access to employment, to be able to buy their own homes, get their own lines of credit, drive, all these kinds of things, right? Men pretty much still could control women. And they're grasping desperately to try to control women through legislation. But women are smarter now, right? Millions more women get college degrees than men now every year, right? And shout out to my non-binary and agender folks. I'm not trying to be heteronormative or cisnormative in that way, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So women are smarter. Women are making more money. Women are more accomplished. There are more single women owning homes than single men. There's so many things, right, that are happening. And so they're turning more to the people that are truly defenseless. And it gets sketchy when I talk about this coming from a mental health perspective and social work perspective and having actually worked with bona fide pedophiles. I'd say maybe 30 to 40% of it is actually pedophilia. The other 70% is power and control and the exertion of patriarchal dominance. There's a particular paraphilia, it's a particular disorder, thing to actually be sexually attracted to children. And it's not that damn common, y'all. It's just not. I wish Dr. Hall was here because I could have him come on and, talk as our resident clinical psychologist. But I'll just say this as somebody who also did this work for quite some time. It is not that common, y'all. A lot of what we are seeing is good old-fashioned misogyny. Okay. And I think that we have to think about that, right, in that way. So yeah, this is something that is rampant. It is something that we are going to see more of. A lot of people have been thinking, with the as more women are refraining from dating, getting married, having sex with men, right? So we think, okay, there'll be more sexual assaults. Why? Because a lot of men can't take being denied. But I'm offering that, yes, we'll see that, and we will see more abuses of children. We will see more of that. So that's that. So if we're talking about Epstein, I got a video. Hold on. Let me play this video for y'all real quick. Because, Sis love a video. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got here. Let's try this.
New
Let me
heat
know if y'all
on
can hear
Donald
it.
Trump amid the Epstein uproar as his latest attempt to slippery slide away from any accountability blows up in federal court. Today, in a scathing ruling, a judge essentially accusing Trump's DOJ of trying to fool the public with, quote, the illusion of transparency. Hours later, in a sign of how this is absolutely dogging Donald Trump, reporters are pressing him about that ruling. It happened during his press conference at the White House.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Madam Attorney General, the Justice Department appealed the Epstein decision today, Mr. President.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I didn't hear an answer either. Today's ruling concerned the DOJ's request to unseal grand jury material from probes into Epstein and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. For weeks, legal experts have said this is a red herring, arguing most of the information is already known and likely to shed very little light on the situation. Today, the federal judge who has seen the material echoing those criticisms and going even further, calling out and rebuking the Trump DOJ. Quote, the DOJ's entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information.
All right, I don't want them to cut me off because you know they love cutting me off on this hater ass platform. But it's really interesting because Trump is trying to assuage the demands. You know, he's trying to get himself off the hook with his supporters because they're turning on him. They're like, nah, this is actually disgusting. Like, and I think a lot of them, we all know for sure that he was doing this stuff. Like, I mean, there's no doubt about it. We actually, hold on, you know, allegedly, you know, he was doing this stuff, right? Y'all ain't finna sue me. We all believe allegedly that he was doing these things, and his base doesn't want to. Now, there's some of the base that, you know, they just voted. I heard they did a sort of poll. I think it was something like 40-some-odd% say they would still support him, even if they found out that, you know, whatever. But there are enough of them who are just like, absolutely not. This is disgusting. And they don't want to believe it, but they want to know the truth. You got to give it to them for that, right? And again, I told y'all, we look at all sides of everything. And I'm not celebrating these people. I'm not calling them good people. But the fact that they are willing to call him out and be like, and make demands and be like, well, wait a minute. We've been putting our name on the line for you, our lives on the line, right? We're risking, you know, I wear this red hat. I'm risking getting my ass beat when I go downtown for you. So you need to not be this, or you need to be transparent about it. And their whole thing, which they are absolutely right, is if you didn't do anything, you shouldn't have a problem, right? I don't know about y'all. If somebody's accusing me of something, you could check everything I got. I give you the password to my phone. I give you everything. You have full access to my entire house, everything, because I would be willing to prove that I am innocent. I didn't do this shit. I ain't got nothing to do with this shit. Released everything. Only time you're going to see my name, Dr. Taylor said, fuck y'all, I'm out. That's the only time you're going to see my name on there. Oh, we saw your name in the files. Yep, that one time where I found out some wild shit was going on, and I said, fuck y'all, I'm out. That's where you're going to see my name. So that's what his supporters are saying. Why don't you just release this? So they were demanding, thank you, Kia. They were demanding the release of like her grand jury testimonies and things like that. And they're not wrong for wanting that. But the judge is saying like they don't want to compromise the safety of the grand jurists, right? That grand jury participants have the right to anonymity, one of those words I can't really say well, and that there's nothing in those files that's any different than what we already know, nor does it release any names. There's no list. It's nothing like that. So they don't want to release it. And Trump was trying to get that. He knows that there's nothing in there. But what he was trying to do was have it unsealed so he could say to his base, look, I got you something. We unsealed this. It's a thing. We're being transparent. We're being open. So this was a major blow to him because now he ain't got nothing. The judge was like, nah, I'm not giving you this. I'm not giving you this. So, you know, that was what was going on with that. I don't think I've talked a whole lot about Epstein. I don't believe he killed himself. All those hours of video, and there's a whole like over a minute missing. Come on. They altered the videos. We all know that man did not take his own life. Even Jelaine said that he was not suicidal because he was not planning on going to jail. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody fact check me. And I know somebody in there know, but correct me if I'm wrong. He was awaiting trial, wasn't he, or something like that? Wasn't he like awaiting trial? He was not. Was he convicted? Somebody fact check me. Hold on. Was Jeffrey Epstein convicted? Let me see. Oh, he pled guilty in 2008. He was arrested on charges. He didn't go to trial. That's it. I know I'm not tripping. Okay. He was awaiting trial. Thank you, chat. He was awaiting trial. And I remember this because she said he had no suicidal intention. Why? Because he knew he was going to get off. Jeffrey Epstein was so powerful and so connected that he was just like, yeah, I'm not going to jail for this. Are you kidding me? That man could blackmail the entire world. So he was very confident that he wasn't going to go to jail for nothing. He was going to get off. He was not going to be convicted. They would make sure that he was not convicted, or he would do what he needed to do. They didn't want to risk that. So, of course, they took him out. Right? No, he was. And you're correct. Him being an operative. So I was watching something else, allegedly, that he was working with the feds, and that he was an informant, and he was an operative, and all of that stuff. I think they were saying it came out in 2018 or 2019 or something like that, that he was an operative. He has no morals. He's a goddamn sex trafficker of children. So, whatever. There's no honor amongst thieves. There's no honor amongst pedophiles. So, and I do believe he actually was one, but okay. So yeah, he was a Democrat when he partied with Epstein. Democrats are terrible. Clinton was partying with him too. Yeah. I'm going to stare directly into the camera. If you believe that Slick Willie, the man whose sexual assault and harassment, alleged sexual assaults and harassment cases were hushed and settled as he prepared to run for president, and his wife helped suppress all of those, if you think that he had absolutely nothing to do with this, you probably also think that President Barack Obama was a great president. Oh, she said it. She said it. All right. I don't want to talk about Epstein anymore. All right, so I want y'all to look at this. Hold on. I want y'all to look at this. Okay, we gotta talk about this. Gotta talk about this. Oh my goodness. Let me actually drink some more wine here. Donald Trump posted great nominees for the Trump/Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center Awards. So did y'all see that behind the scenes thing where he's not actually sitting there? He doesn't type his own stuff. He has people typing stuff for him. And so he's got like one person that does a lot of his candid stuff. And then he has somebody who like articulates a lot of things, but will add a little, okay, whatever. So he's sitting there. He's saying this to people like, whoops. And somebody's typing it too, because that's just how he is. Kennedy Center Awards. They will be announced Wednesday. Wednesday as in tomorrow. Y'all, if you're catching this later, this is recorded August 12th, 2025. I need to get better at time stamping these too, just for the future when we end up, in parable of the talents. Okay. Tremendous work is being done and money is being spent on bringing it back to the absolute top level of luxury, glamour, and entertainment. It has fallen on hard times physically, but will soon be making a major comeback. President DJT. So I think it's really important that you all also understand. Well, so my friend works there, and it's it's been very difficult for the staff there. They had no idea that he was going to say no shit like this. They had no idea at all that he had nominees. First of all, nominee process. You bring people together. It is usually board comes together, staff comes together, they all kind of weigh in on this, right? My friend has had a role in some of the recent people being selected, of the hip hop persuasion. People, it's a collective thing. So they had no idea that that there was going to be some announcements tomorrow. They're like, what? Who is it going to be? And I think that they're removing the rainbow thing too, because it's too gay, which is really also interesting. But anyway, so it says, okay. So usually the Kennedy Center honors, for the most part, go to people that are still alive. I think that anybody who is nominated or anyone who is selected should very publicly reject it. No one should be accepting this. Now he's going to focus on, one, people that have given him a lot of money, two, people that have been publicly MAGA, right? He doesn't want to be embarrassed in that way. So he's not going to take a risk and select somebody who would say no. But here's the thing. He is even talking about giving one to Babe Ruth and Elvis Presley. Those are some of the names that he's kind of floated out there. These dead people who won't be here. Babe Ruth, colored man that he was, stolen valor type dude that he was, and Elvis Presley, we all know, right? One of the biggest cultural appropriators in the history of this country. It makes sense that he would want to give them honors, right? Because that's just who he is. And then the thing is, they just passed a domestic spending agenda. And this ties into what I was saying earlier about the Pol Pot connection. The Kennedy Center is going to receive $257 million, which is 6 times what it normally gets from Congress. I feel like we need to talk about that. Like, he's increased the Kennedy Center budget that he wants it renamed the Trump Center 6 times. They could have been used this money, right? All the community programming that they've done, all of this beautiful. I've gone to many events at the Kennedy Center because of my friend, and I've always had a wonderful time. They're celebrating the arts and things like that. They could have used this money all this time. He wants to increase it by 6 times. So you have to start thinking, what is he planning to do with that? Right? He wants to name it after himself. So is this going to be a living shrine to him? Is he going to turn it into a place where the naked emperor that he is can go and be adorned, and they can have these humiliation rituals in which he gets people to come and pledge fealty and all this stuff to them, and they are entertained? Like, what is he planning? Like, what is he planning? He's also on this whole thing about the Nobel Prize. Hold on, I just saw this. Let me go because I gotta show y'all this. This was so funny to me. Hold on, where's my search button? Search White House, because I'm gonna show you all. I had to see it, so do you. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Let me share this with you all. Let's see, share this tab instead. Can you see this? Okay, great. Worldwide calls for President Trump. Oh, no, you can't see it because I haven't put it on the screen. Okay. Worldwide calls for President Trump to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan of Armenia, President Ilham Aliyev of Azerbaijan, Prime Minister Hun Manet of Cambodia. We were just talking about Pol Pot. Cambodia got a lot of issues over there, by the way, y'all. President, if anybody in the chat is from Cambodia and wants to share some insight, please let me know. President Brice Oligui Nguema of Gabon, Prime Minister Baby Hitler, the government of Pakistan, and Foreign Minister Olivier Mudangari of Rwanda. Rwanda has completely sold out, and I don't wonder what their humiliation ritual looked like, but they're taking money to receive people that are being kicked out of the country, convicted people. I don't like calling people criminals, but they are accepting large sums of money to take these people into their country. The same country that experienced genocide when 1 million people were killed while Bill Clinton was getting his dick sucked in the Oval Office. Anyway, but he lists this as though it says worldwide. Oh, look at my little comment up there. I said most Americans can't even identify those countries on a map. Knock it off. I'm a troll. I know I'm a troll. But what in what world is that worldwide? In what world? Wait, let's go back. Let's go back. Wait, what do you say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaders. Oh, 5 actual heads of state. And then he puts the government of Pakistan. If we count them, 6, and then a foreign minister is 7. How is that worldwide support? Again, the average American can't identify any of those countries on a map because Americans are largely uneducated and stupid. And they stopped teaching geography, right? Okay. So, yeah. And I say that as a person who came in second place on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. And I only came in second place because I helped my friend win. Okay. She came in first. All right. But anyway, I bet you didn't know that little fun fact. I was on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So yeah, this whole thing, again, he's advocating for a Nobel Peace Prize. He has not done anything worthy of it, neither did Barack Obama, but we're going to let that go. So he's pushing for that, very Pol Pot. He wants to expand the Kennedy Center, probably to create it as a shrine to him, a place where he can go and be entertained. Pol Pot did that. Hitler also did something like that. He wants to be the dictator that he told everybody he was going to be on day one. And yeah, no, like I think somebody told me to make a shirt. I'm like, I'm gonna make a knock it off shirt because I'm really fucking tired of people. I'm just like, knock it off. Like, stop, cut the bullshit. We are not here. Yes, I was on the television show. And it's funny because a few years back, one of my followers actually was able to find the clip. And I was and this was before I was telling people what my given name was. I was like, how the fuck did you find this? I was 12 years old when I was on, right? I'm 46 now, y'all. That's how long ago it was. But yeah, so the Kennedy Center stuff is really messed up. And then finally, and I'm going to wrap this up because we've been here for an hour. The White House is announcing a comprehensive review of the Smithsonian exhibits. And of course, the National Museum of African American History and Culture is one of the 8 Smithsonian museums whose exhibitions will be reviewed by the Trump administration. Why is he doing this? He's saying it is to assess tone, historical framing, and alignment with American ideals, right? So the National Museum of African American History and Culture completely stands in opposition to what he considers the United States American ideals, right? So every single thing inside of that museum will be determined to be in opposition of the values. Why? Because it actually tells the truth. The people who have curated it presented it not in any kind of whitewashed or wishy-washy kind of way. They told the truth. It is balanced. It is fair. African-American historian that I am. I've been there many times. I go there to see the new exhibits. I've seen the permanent exhibits. It is pretty well done. Yeah, it stands absolutely in opposition to everything that he believes that the United States ideals are. So we can expect that they will try to shut it down or what have you. But here's the thing. When it comes to stuff like that, again, when you have like government run things or things, Congress has to approve these things, right? So he's trying to get as much of this done because in 2026, that pendulum is going to swing so far back to the other side. It's not even going to be funny. He's going to have nothing. They've admitted this. They said after 2026, he's not going to be able to do anything unless he can manage to secure, and that's why they're trying to redistrict. They're trying to do all these things because they know They know he's not going to be able to do anything at all. He's going to be stuck. What they call it, lame duck. I don't like to use it. I know it's ableist language, but they call it a lame duck presidency. That is exactly what is happening. That's why they are moving fast and furious. They're trying to get everything done. And as I said before, on Threads, I believe, I said they're reckless. And I don't, for people with low literacy and low comprehension, I'm now in no way making excuses for what they're doing or trying to show any kind of sympathy or anything. But when you want to talk about the descent into fascism, if you study fascist regimes, you see how they work. They are moving way too fast. That's how Hitler ended up getting taken out, because he was reckless too. He was able to get a lot of the damage done. He was able to kill 11 million people. But when you think about it, it didn't take that long, right? He was moving kind of fast and furious and recklessly, which is what Trump is doing. The Trump administration is doing that, and they're hitting everything with a sledgehammer when they need to be using a feather quill, right? And they could get so much more done to meet their objectives, but also to permanently install their goals and objectives if they had a little more finesse. And so when you look at the example of immigration, for example, you told people that you were going to get the violent criminals and send them away, right? But then it became clear that there are not that many violent criminals who are here so-called illegally, right? So you had to shift the narrative. Then it becomes about criminalizing being undocumented. Well, they also understand that the average American does not understand that it is not a criminal offense to be here undocumented. It's like a civil issue. You can get your citation. You're supposed to work through. You petition, all these kinds of things. Being undocumented is actually not a crime, right? So, but the average American does not know that, right? So they parrot all of that nonsense. Oh, you're here illegally. That's why they have to use the language of illegal and things like that, because they know that it is not true, right? But then they start going after workers. They start going after the people who cut the grass and wash the dishes and raise the babies. They start going after their neighbors who they've never had any issues with. They've always had a great time. They start going after their kids' friends' parents. The kids that, their kids are going to school, and their best friend, Esperanza, is now not showing up to school anymore because her parents were taken away and she's now in foster care 2 counties over. They didn't want that, right? And so they're kind of turning on that. They're also taking people's wives and husbands, people that voted for them. How many videos do we have to see where people are talking about, we voted for Trump twice, took my wife. Well, we were doing things the right way. You and all these other people that you were okay with being removed and kidnapped and deported, they also were trying. Because how do we know this? These people are getting kidnapped at their appointments. They actually have immigration appointments. They're doing things the right way, a completely flawed immigration process. And I think that everybody on all sides can admit that the United States immigration process does need overhaul. It does need fixing. But people are following it the way that they're being told to. They're doing it the right way. It takes years and years and years for people to become citizens here in the United States. So if you come and you're doing it the right way, you are living a decent life, you are working, you're paying your taxes, staying out of trouble, you're trying to achieve the American dream. Why are they kidnapping you when you're going to your appointments, right? And that's the issue. That is the issue. And that's what's getting people to turn now, because it's not just about criminals. And the more they hear about Alligator Alcatraz, for example, they're like, wait a minute, why are you killing? These people are going to die. They're starving. The COVID, I just read today, they said there's something either COVID or COVID-like making its way through the whole thing. People have there's a respiratory disease that is going through. They're in their own waste. People are not able to shower. The toilets are overflowing. People are getting sick. They're starving. They're on hunger strike, but also they're feeding them maggots and food that has, it's been poisoned and all these kinds of things. a lot of MAGA doesn't want that on their hands. They don't. They're like, and they're like, that's not what we wanted, right? So the tide is turning in that way. But they're also flooding the internet with bots, right? So they've got the Russian bot farms, they've got the Nigerian bot farms, the Pakistan bot farms, the Indian bot farms that are all pretending to be in support of this. They're pretending to be American citizens. They're creating these accounts to flood the internet to make it look like there's way more support for it. So again, before you start arguing, I don't know why you're arguing with anybody from MAGA anyway, but if you choose to because you're bored and you're waiting to get your cavity, filled, and you want to argue with them, just remember you're probably arguing with the same person that you just tried to argue your Verizon bill with, okay? So be smart. Be smart. No, I agree with you. I like a lot of these are not ICE agents. And that's why I tell people all the time, if you see someone being taken and they're claiming that they're ICE, call the police. I keep telling you, the only time I ever tell you all to call the police is to call the police on the police and to make sure that you have a public record. You could say, I'm on the corner of such and such and such and such. There are these men. They're not wearing any badges. They're not wearing any attire that identifies them as any kind of officials. They are kidnapping people. And I'm reporting a kidnapping. That is how you have to do that, because there's a good chance it is an actual kidnapping. And they've been finding like ICE agents who are participating in human trafficking, but also people who are pretending to be ICE agents so that they can go and they can harass people and kidnap people and all these kinds of things. We're living in some really wild times, but we all have a role to play and we could all be doing our part. So if I find out any of you was standing there and recording someone being kidnapped instead of being on your phone and reporting it to the police, we're probably going to have a problem. Just don't let me find out, because I will shame you. I will shame you to the point where you delete every utterance of your name on social media. You will be devastated. Okay, so that's not what we're doing over here. We about revolution over here. The only time I call the cops is to call the cops on the cops. All right, that's our thing. All right, I love you all very much. Like I said, I am going to try to set this up Tuesdays at 8, Tuesdays at 7 Eastern. Join me each week. Now that my kid is gone, he's going to be gone to college. Oh, I'm going to be here by myself. I might do Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'll see, but we'll start with Tuesdays. I don't want to overcommit. I'm sorry. Oh, I can't. Anyway, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for rocking with me. Like I said, YouTube probably ain't gonna monetize me because I cuss too damn much. So if you want to throw some change my way, I always have the tags up there. Fem Jones on Cash App, Fem Jones on Venmo. If you go to PayPal, my email is contact@feministajones.com. You can put that in if you want to send PayPal. I know some people outside the country, and shout out to my Canadian Massive and other folks. I know y'all watch from outside the country. If you want to drop a few coins, that'd be great. But I will be here. Let's do it. We're gonna get through this together. We're gonna talk through these things. We're gonna find ways to fight. DC folks, please stay safe. My heart is with you. Be careful at those demonstrations. Remember to cover your faces. I just saw a free DC demonstration where everybody's faces were exposed. Please stop doing that. Cover your faces. They are in those crowds with facial scans. They are getting your biometric information. They are going to be following you. They can hurt you at your job. They can hurt you at your home. I need you all to start thinking like that. There's no peaceful protest. There's no such thing anymore. We are at war. We are in the middle of a civil war, and you all need to start acting like soldiers on the right side. Cover your faces, okay? Stop playing. Get you some goggles. Get you them ski masks. I actually sell some on my website. Oh, by the way, I do have merch now. You can go to feministajones.com/merch. I am selling different products, shirts, mugs, buttons, all kinds of things. I'll be adding products as the creative vibe hits me. I'll be adding more, but right now we have the DMDR shirts, Dead Men Don't Rape. We have the Black Children Deserve to Dream in Color. We have Chinga la Migra. And we have Read the Article. Now, this is one of the old Read the Articles. I had these printed before and they sold out when we did them before. So I finally decided to bring those back. So the Read the Article, we have shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, buttons, notebooks, bags, tote bags, everything. Like I got a water bottle for Read the Article. So we are there. Chinga la Migra is there. So get that, support that. You know, I gotta pay for this kid to go to college. So I definitely appreciate all of your support. And I will see you all next Tuesday.